Good to go? Okay. Again, thank you and good evening. We're here for the State of the Village address. Under our charter, the village president, one of his duties is to report annually to the Board of Trustees on the condition of the village and the work of the previous year. First off, on behalf of Alex and the whole village, we'd like to thank everyone who braved the elements to come out here for this evening, and we're sure there are a lot more watching at home. Alex's address will also be available on the website. And again, we thank you. And without further ado, President Alex Torpey.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you, everybody, like he said, for coming out in the elements. I'll try and keep this quick so I can get you home soon. And so this is as the administrator said, this is actually the second year we've done the State of the Village. It is in our charter to report. I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of take stock of what happened the last year, talk a little bit about what we're doing moving forward. We talk so much in so many small snippets these days in 2013, whether it's online or text message or anything like that. It's all these small pieces of conversation. And even though I certainly can't fit everything that we do into 1 hour here, I'm going to try. And I also want to make sure to thank my colleagues here on the board. One of the things that I've certainly learned a lot more, or even just over the past couple years, is how important it is to have a team around you of people who share your goals, share your ideas, share your vision, even if you disagree about some things sometimes, that you all are committed to the same outcomes. And I learned that whether it's on the rescue squad responding to a call and having your partners back you up, or here lobbying New Jersey Transit to try and get something changed, knowing that there's a group of people that are working with you is really, really important. So there are 3 trustees that are here tonight. I'd like to ask you to stand. Can we give them a round? It's trustees Mark Reisner, Howard Levison, and Deborah Davis Ford, and thank you guys again for being here. Now, what I want to start off with is kind of where we always start these kind of discussions, which is the budget. Most of the questions that people have about what we're doing, most of the questions that I fielded when running, all these things really revolve around the property taxes that we have here in South Orange, and the budget is obviously kind of the outcome of those taxes. So what I think is important to note here is looking at over the course of the past decade, basically, these are the tax increases in South Orange. If you see the last 4 years, we've started to stabilize our municipal budget. The last couple years, we've been around at 1.5%. This year, we're looking at about approximately a 1.6% increase. That's only a $70 increase per household in South Orange. This is an amazing trend. Looking at what happens in 1 year is important, but looking at what happens over a decade is even more important. And you can see where the trend is going, and you can see what a stabilized budget looks like. You can see that up here. And what we need to try and do is find ways to continue to deliver the services that everybody in South Orange has come to expect from us while keeping the budget in that stabilized under 2% cap. Now, what a lot of people also hear a lot about, and I talked a little bit about this last year, is what this 2% cap is. The 2% cap is something that was instituted to control local government spending. It doesn't allow you to increase your budget over 2%. What isn't clear from some of these simple numbers is that there are expenses that are within your cap, and there are expenses that are outside of your cap. Costs that are outside of your control, healthcare, pension, things like that. For us, our goal is an all-in under 2%. So our expenses that are actually under the 2% cap are well below this 2% limit, and everything combined is still below the 2% limit. And this is one of the most important things that we can do as a local government. At the end of the day, our budget does not make up all of the property taxes in town. Most of it goes to the schools and to the county. We only get about 28% that goes to our budget. So everything that we do is kind of diluted by about 1/3 what you see on your tax bills. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to do great things with our budget. And I think this year, in 2012, going even into 2013, something historic has happened, which is that the board and the village is restructuring our debt in a very significant way. Something Trustee Howard Levison and our Administrator Barry Lewis have worked really hard on is taking the debt, our short-term and long-term debt, restructuring it, locking in better interest rates, and over 20 years of that payoff period, we're going to save a gross amount of over $4 million from restructuring that debt. Now is a good time to do that. They've been working really hard at making that happen, and that's a really, really important thing for us to do, is not just think about the expenses that come in and out every year, but what does it look like 5, 10, or 20 years from now? Municipal governments are operating obviously in a very difficult time right now. Costs are rising everywhere, especially look at healthcare, health insurance costs. And that's something that as a local government is not within our control. That's, a federal inability or lack of political ability or willingness to find a way to actually control healthcare costs in this country. But even though those problems may exist at the federal level, we still have to provide the coverage for our employees, and we still have to deliver a budget under that cap. So that strain always trickles down to the local level, and what we have to do to scramble to try and make things work. And I think we're doing a very good job of that. And it's not just about the debt restructuring, which is incredibly important to our long-term financial solvency, but it's being creative about what we can do now. There's a cooperative purchasing program for electricity that I believe Essex County was one of the leaders in starting between multiple counties. It's actually going to save us 47%, about 47% on our electricity costs. That's a huge number, especially for a municipal government that operates a dozen buildings, all those different electricity and utility costs. And we're looking to do the same thing through a cooperative purchasing program with natural gas. So by looking outside of, it's not just South Orange, it's what are other towns around us doing, what are the counties doing, finding those opportunities and working with them to try and reduce costs is another important way for us to keep our budget stabilized. And we need to do a lot more than that too. There's too many opportunities, almost so many opportunities to try and save costs, and the debt restructuring is a great long-term solution. Reducing our utility costs, which is a large part of our budget, is important, and finding better ways to organize our staff here in Village Hall, finding better ways to use technology to allow them to do their jobs more efficiently is important, and the revenue side is important as well. Making sure to bring in commercial ratables into this downtown so that less of the burden is on the single-family homeowner. And so what we're doing with the budget is important, what we're doing to control costs is important, but there's a piece of it that's almost as important, which is, do people understand what we're doing? Do people understand where the money's going? And do people understand, to be honest, how well we're using the taxpayer money to provide these services? And what we're going to be launching hopefully this week is a budget tool that breaks down every line item of our budget in a visual format, allows you to look at the different sources of each, drill down to the level of detail, the absolute level of detail that we use in our budgeting. This tool is going to be available online. This is, without a doubt, the most transparent municipal budget there is in the state of New Jersey. There is no town that is putting their budget online the way we have. And fortunately, we have a great administrator who's able to work with a standardized budget format, which we did in 2012 by releasing it in a spreadsheet, and this kind of takes it one step further and making this information really easy to see, easy to read. You can download the information, play with it, look at what happens over the past 5 years, look what happens department by department. And importantly, what we actually learned is that this tool is going to help us do our budgeting in-house, because some of our own software that we need to use to run financial reports doesn't work as smoothly and as easily as this does. So this is a great tool that not only will provide us more efficiency, but will show everybody who wants to know what's happening with your tax dollars. And we hope that by doing this, by telling this story, we can encourage other municipal governments, other county governments, and state governments to do the same. So people in New Jersey can understand where all of their property taxes go. And next year, hopefully taking this even one step further and allowing people to submit their own ideas of a budget and provide feedback on what we're doing in just kind of a more efficient way. These are great things, and again, like I said, I don't think you'll find a municipal budget in New Jersey that is as transparent as this, and we're going to be releasing that this week, and we'll obviously let everybody in the community know about that. Kind of next on the list of some of the most important things we can talk about is public safety. Public safety services are the biggest part of our budget, mostly the police and fire departments. And while we're looking at a number of different kind of operational efficiencies for both those departments, what's important for people to know in South Orange is that you get an incredible bang for your buck with the services that we provide here. Anybody who's ever seen what happens if there's a small fire in a house or a motor vehicle accident or anything like that, the incredible response time of our police department, fire department, rescue squad, they're there within minutes. And they, in my experience, not only as village president, but also as an EMT on the rescue squad, seeing some of these calls firsthand, can see how rapidly professional they respond to these kinds of incidents. And people in South Orange should know that that kind of help is only a few minutes away. And it's not even just about what happens when that 911 call is received and you have to go to that scene. It's about how things work on a daily basis. For example, in the fire department, our firefighters double as inspectors, which allow us to not have to hire additional people and hire additional people with benefits and healthcare costs and all those tail costs associated with full-time employees. Instead, we can stipend our firefighters. They get a better view and understanding of the buildings around town and are able to do that when they're here on duty anyway. Just one of the many, many efficiencies that we have. And our rescue squad is another great example. South Orange residents, Seton Hall students, Maplewood residents get unbelievably rapid, professional, and almost completely free emergency medical services thanks to the rescue squad. They operate based on donations and a small monetary contribution from the village. And last year, I was proud to play just a very, very small role in helping bring back the charity golf tournament, which was really the initiative and energy of our Citizens Public Safety Chair, Sheena Collum, who worked with the rescue squad and organized a fundraiser, a charity golf tournament that raised $30,000, which is their biggest fundraiser in the history of the rescue squad. And volunteers and residents stepping up to do things like that is incredible. And again, supporting the kinds of services that we all need, but have almost no tax impact for. It's a very efficient setup. And kind of on the note of good deals for public safety, it's important to note, people may have seen it around town, is our fire department received a delivery of a brand new ladder truck this year. And although myself at 25 years old, I may still be a grown boy, a fire truck at 25 years old is a piece of equipment in need of replacement. And we were able to replace it with a $735,000 fire truck at only a $35,000 cost to South Orange residents, thanks in large part to FEMA and Congressman Pascarell, but really our fire chief, Jeff Markey, for putting that grant together and bringing us such a great piece of equipment at so small of a cost to South Orange taxpayers. And I think that's indicative of the way that all of our employees here operate. And there's been so many examples over time of different department heads finding those kind of opportunities, and that's just one of the most recent ones. Still in, and if you'd like to, there is a quick video online that Chief Markey and I put together. Talks a little bit about the truck and how the grant process works. And at some point this spring, we hope to do a formal dedication where you can actually see all the equipment on the truck. It's pretty cool, and a really, really great upgrade to our fleet here. And so, kind of moving on a little bit, I want to talk about crime in South Orange and the really incredible job that our police department has done and continues to do in controlling crime in South Orange. Every year you can look at the crime reports. I mean, from 2010 to 2011, the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, they're always about a year behind with those reports, did denote a significant decrease in crime in South Orange. Looking at our own data, that decrease again happened from 2011 to 2012. But crime, as everybody probably knows, fluctuates a little bit from year to year. Taking 1 year, 2 years is not necessarily the most important measure. This is a measure of the crimes per 10,000 residents in South Orange over the past, since 1999. And you can see that trend going down. And our police department, although patrolling a relatively small square area of town, combats challenges that police departments its size don't have to combat. And they do an incredible job at doing that. What's interesting to note, I think, is that even though crime is going down, awareness of crime is going up. And that's interesting because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's incredible because the awareness of this allows residents through Neighborhood Watch. We have our resident Neighborhood Watch coordinator, Janine Buckner, here tonight also. It allows residents through that process to be able to be proactive and actually help stop crime by sending tips to the police department, which you can even just do on our website. But on the other hand, sometimes it can make people feel like things are more out of control or that there's more crime than there actually is. We invite people always to reach out to any of us if they do, any village officials, if they do have a concern about anything, and people are usually not hesitant to do so. But what we say now is, well, there's crime, we do everything we can, and our police department does a great job of being out there and being proactive, understanding our geography, and combating crime. But at the end of the day, the number of residents out there far outnumbers the number of police officers. So those eyes and ears are very important. And at the end of the day, from our perspective at the village, it's about empowering our police department and our police officers to do their job the best that they can. And whether that's residents helping out by working with Neighborhood Watch, or whether that's the technology that we can use, security cameras, license plate readers, mobile data terminals in the vehicles, and things like that, they're all tools to empower them to do their job. And I guess, I do want to give one quick example. I think, it's easy to talk about, oh, well, we should use technology and we should use cameras and these things are great. It's easy to say all of that. But what's important to note is that these aren't just talking points. These aren't concepts. These are things that on a daily basis our police department uses to catch criminals. And not too long ago, there was a hit and run in South Orange, and the offending vehicle, a piece of it broke off. That piece had a serial number on it, which an officer was quick enough thinking to take to an auto body place, try and match that up with what make and model the car could be, and then go back to our automatic license plate reader system and look at the scene of the crime and look at the cars that were fleeing in the time period that the accident happened, and were able to find a vehicle that they identified as possibly being the vehicle. Detectives went to that person's house, found the person who admitted they did it, and issued them a summons. So these are not talking points. That's a criminal who was caught because of a police officer who thought pretty quick, and because of a piece of technology that allowed them to sift through all that data of how many cars are driving up the street during a given time and go find that person. And when that person who committed that crime, fled the scene, didn't tell anybody, went home and thought that nobody was going to hear about it again, and sees South Orange police officers show up at their door, that's going to get out there. It's going to get out there that you do that in South Orange and you're going to get caught. And we have a really excellent and high-performing police department to thank because of that. And there's many different uses that we have. Well, let me say one more thing actually about our police department. I was particularly excited to be able to promote 2 police officers this year. Now, Sergeant Adrian Acevedo and Lieutenant Eric Moore, 2 people who I both knew personally and who I know are people who contribute to solving crimes and controlling some of these issues and improving quality of life in South Orange. And there's really not much more of an honor for me as the village president than to be able to get to stand up here and swear in or promote a police officer with their entire family and friends there. It's a great thing to do, and we're glad to have all of our officers working around the clock to be able to keep us safe. So on a little bit the note of technology, I want to talk about a couple things that we're doing right now. One is our email system, which before was an in-house Exchange server that was prone to downtime. For example, during Hurricane Sandy, our email went out. As the emergency management coordinator, I was sending hundreds of emails a day between back and forth with residents, the Essex County Office of Emergency Management, PSE&G, and many more. And when our email system went down, fortunately, I had a backup email address that I used kind of in those situations, but we cannot allow that to happen. We can't have a piece of our emergency management infrastructure missing. And email in 2013 is a critical infrastructure. So what we're doing now is moving everything over to Google Apps. And when that implementation is done and everybody's set up and all the email addresses are set up, our staff are going to be able to spend less time on the maintenance, and we're not going to have pretty much any downtime with our email ever again. We're switching to Google, which has an incredible redundancy rate. If one server goes down in one part of the country, another one picks it up. We couldn't do that before. So this is a huge step for us to be able to rely on something that we know is going to be there when we need it. And additionally, Google, for example, offers a ton of workflow features through Google Calendar and Google Docs that we can use to make some of our processes here in Village Hall more efficient. And as we think about, instead of putting paper up here on the dais for our trustees for the meetings, laptops or tablets, having the Google operating system or Google Apps as our email client will allow us to integrate all of our documents and mail, calendars, and everything into a really seamless workflow. That will save paper, improve people's recall. You'll be able to pull up minutes from old meetings very quickly, and just basically improve all the information that we have access to as we try and govern. We're also switching to a new emergency notification system. This is something that I think we've wanted to do for a while, and it's a project that was difficult because we had a website that was basically intertwined with a whole bunch of different other features, emergency notifications, calendaring, a whole bunch of other things that we're now starting to unravel a little bit. And the emergency notification system that we're switching to, called Everbridge, is one of the best, most respected emergency alert systems in the country. And what it allows us to actually do, everybody's probably heard my voice usually at some point during a storm, call with some emergency information to your landline, to your cell phone. But what this is going to allow us to do is not only push information out, it will allow us to also use recall for our employees through the system. And most importantly, it's going to allow us to get information back from people. There are very few systems that actually do this. And what we're going to be able to do is collect real-time geocoded data on what's happening. So for example, if we need to ask if people need shelter, if we need to ask if there are special medical needs, if we need to ask if your power's out, we're going to be able to collect that information. At that end of the phone call, it's going to say, press 1. If you need a place to stay tonight, press 2. If you're staying with friends or family, press 3. If your neighbor needs, whatever the questions are, we're going to get that information back in real time, coded on a map, so we can see exactly where the problems might exist. We've never had access to that information before, and I think if we ask the power outage question, we'll be able to send our utility companies more accurate information than they're actually getting, because we can be proactive about reaching out to people by landline, by cell phone, by text message, and by email, all in one, and collecting that data back for our use for emergency purposes. And as part of that, we're completely reinventing our online presence right now. We're working on redoing a website that is not going to be a completely start from scratch redesign, but it's going to have more interactive tools and an easier way to find what you're looking for. So it offers us a better workflow, and I've mentioned that word a lot tonight, workflow, but it's important for us to figure out how best we can manage our time as elected officials, as staff, and making sure that we're doing the most with what we have. And what this will allow us to do, for example, is allow department heads, volunteer groups, committees, take a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more ownership of their pages on the website, publish something as a draft, and then all Mr. Lewis or I have to do is check off to publish it for the website and it goes live, whereas everything right now has to be routed through one IT person. So we're going to try and break that out a little bit and make that work a little bit more efficiently. And what's going to be really cool about this website is just like when you go to Google and start typing in your search terms and it starts suggesting what you might be looking for, our website will do the same. We learned that people are going to our website with a very specific purpose in mind. I need to pay my taxes. I need to find out how to file this permit. I need the hours of this. And although we'll have traditional layouts that will make it easy to navigate with drop-down menus and all that, there's also going to be start typing and it'll try and guess what you're looking for. And as people click on those things, it will dynamically recreate that list of suggestions, making it more and more accurate and more tailored to what South Orange residents are looking for. So you can go to the website, type in what you want, and find what you need to do. And we've started as well, our Twitter has been active for over a year now, and it provided an incredibly useful resource during Hurricane Irene, during the snowstorm, and again during Hurricane Sandy. And now, as of just a couple days ago, we have an official Facebook page as well that will allow us to put information out through that channel. And a lot of these projects are happening through the Public Information and Marketing Committee, which is a great group of residents and community partners that are helping us do some better marketing and branding. And if any of you are on Facebook and don't like South Orange on Facebook, please go home and do so. We're going to be posting a lot of important information, some fun historical facts, and also it'll be a great resource during emergencies to get information quickly spread out to as many people as possible. And from a hardware technology standpoint, we're investing in our infrastructure. All of these things that we want to do, security cameras with HD video, all of these things require more bandwidth, and we're investing in fiber optic networks for all of our buildings that will bring us probably one of the most wired and high-speed connected municipal governments our size, and allow that to power our public safety communications, our emergency notifications, and everything else. So we'll be, so not only is it important to kind of invest in the front end facing piece of it, but also the back end as well. And one of the cool things that we're using right now in our Public Information and Marketing Committee, which is something, a little bit of a test case to see if we can expand it to some of the other committees and some of the rest of how we do governance in South Orange, is I think I can pretty safely ask the question, how many people in here get too many emails on a daily basis? Show of hands. We get laughter, that's the reaction, and that's true. You know, we're all flooded with so many emails, so many different projects, it's hard to keep track of everything, and there's actually tools out there that we can use. Government doesn't usually use, but private sector certainly does. This particular one is called Basecamp, and basically what it allows you to do is scroll through all the posts that people have made about a project. You can click on a particular project, see all the updates to it. People can add files and images, and it just makes it really easy for groups to keep track of what they're doing. One of the things that we really try and do is make sure that anybody who's volunteering, especially on a committee, is using their time the most efficiently. We don't want residents to come in and sit here for a meeting for 2 hours and go home and not really know what they were supposed to do. We want people to be focused, use their time well. If we don't need to come in and have a meeting, you don't have to. Work from home, work on the train, work during your lunch break a little bit on some projects for the town. So by being able to do that, we'll be able to bring more people into the process, because not everybody can come down to Village Hall for a meeting for an hour or two once a week or once a month. Some people, if you have children at home and you need to stay home, now there's going to start to be more ways that you can contribute to some of these projects through some of these platforms, which is pretty exciting. Obviously, a really exciting personal piece for me is how transparent we can be, how accessible we can be as a government. And usually that's in the terms of, well, what technology do you use? But there's a much more organic way that this government is being open, which is how many people are involved in the governance process right now. We created a Historic Preservation Commission. Our Community Emergency Response Team continues to grow. Our Development Committee, Energy Policy Committee, Transportation Advisory Committee, Citizens Public Safety Committee are all strong right now. You know, they're not just sitting around batting ideas around. They're sitting around and they're doing work. They're getting things done. They're contributing to this community. And even with all of those, now we're starting to put together a New Jersey Transit Advisory Committee to help us, the government and residents, work together to continue to work with New Jersey Transit on improving the train and commuter experience to our station. And that's just one of the many more ways that we're going to create ways for people to get involved. And these things are important. These instruments are important because as a government, you know, we have people that are coming at us from every which angle 24/7. Any of the elected officials here or our administrator, or really any staff person can tell you how many emails come in. You have your own staff, you have neighboring municipalities, have the media, you have the residents in town, the business owners. There's so many different stakeholders and so many different pressure points going in different directions. So it's important for us to create these structures and make sure that everybody's time is used well. You know, if people have ideas, they should be involved in the process, but we need to make sure that it's a formal structure that allows them to contribute in a way that's going to make their idea most productive for what we want to do. It's not about, you know, we can certainly have, you know, kind of gossip nights, and people will certainly always do that, but for us, the way that we want to get residents involved is by finding ways for people to help solve problems in this community. And creating committees that aren't committees in the typical sense, but efficient work groups of people that get together and are getting work done is a great way for us to bring more people into the process. And it allows us to tap into the ideas of the larger community without necessarily running in all different directions all the time. We can be focused and we can actually get some of these things done. South Orange has, for a long time, since before I've been here, but since then, led the way on open government issues. The New Jersey ACLU, the New Jersey Foundation for Open Government, and many more have recognized us for the initiatives that we've taken, and some of the projects that we've done, especially around our budget, have been written up in as large as national media outlets online. And telling the stories of these things that we try and do is important, because at the end of the day, although we're committed to making South Orange better and make South Orange work better, there are other governments that need help too, that have less resources, less idea of what to do. And if we can tell our stories, our success stories, and our challenges to them, we'll see government improve everywhere. You know, a lot of this attention has been caught by the use of social media, our use of video. Even outside of the video updates that I do after the meetings, we've been putting the videos of our board meetings, the video of this meeting, the video of almost every meeting that we hold here online. The streaming live, usually on Soma TV and on the website. And then there's years back of archives of videos for anybody who wants to watch. There are not many towns that do that. What we've done, and especially what our clerk's office has done, has basically taken the public document that used to be requested through an open public records request and put it online. So you don't need to file the request. It saves staff time, and it gives the public more accessibility to what we're doing. I'm happy to be able to be a part of this. I'm happy to be a part of putting more information online, making more public documents available. We've even played with the configuration of our meetings. For example, adding a public comment period before any action is taken and after any action is taken, so that people, if they want to, can make their statement, can make their opinion known before the board actually does anything in a meeting, and then afterwards as well. And make a little bit more of a deliberate agenda process that is with the goal of providing our governing body with more information about items that are added to the agenda, rather than kind of a free-for-all. So creating these structures for information to be put through internally and externally is something that's very important to us. And personally, on this note, you know, I do attend and speak at a lot of panels about social media, about the use of technology in government. It's not only to talk about what we do here, but it's to learn from what other people are doing. Because we have some great ideas in South Orange, but we don't have all the ideas. And there are a lot of people who have tried things before and have learned some of the best practices already. So going out there, learning, discussing best practices. I had a great conversation with someone from the United Nations the other day who was interested in how we use social media during Hurricane Sandy, in developing programs for them to use social media to actually do notices to their employees. And so we're continuing to do this and continuing to tell the stories of these things that we do, so other people can learn from that and other people can continue to do better as well. And a really simple thing that's worth noting that probably everybody doesn't know is all of our agendas, all of our minutes, like I said, all the videos, the resolutions and ordinances are all right on the website. You don't need to come here. You don't need to file a public records request. You can just go right here on southorange.org, go to local government, and you'll see the drop down of anything that you want, and you can click it, and it's right there for you to download in a PDF. The information is extremely accessible. Most municipalities in New Jersey, you have to go physically into the building, file the request. You might get a paper photocopy. You might get lucky enough to get it by email. But all of that information for us is up here, and that's been, South Orange has been doing that for years. And it's simple and a great way, again, to provide people with information about what we're doing, what decisions we're making. To switch gears a little bit, you know, one of the most important factors in us stabilizing our budget is bringing in more revenue. You hear the debate at the national level all the time, we'll cut costs versus higher taxes. Well, it's not necessarily that simple, right? There is not just one type of tax. There's the homeowners that are heavily burdened with some of the highest property taxes in the nation in this town. And part of the reason why is because South Orange has a pretty small commercial corridor. There are towns around us, West Orange that has multiple downtowns, Milburn that has the mall, we can go on with Livingston and all these other towns. We need to create more of that commercial viability. It will help the businesses that are here already, and these new businesses, new commercial ratables, new development projects that we do are bringing in sustainable money. It's not a one-time budget help, right? This is not $300,000 in 1 year for the budget. It's that much every year for us to stabilize our budget. And one of the greatest ways that this has happened, or that this is now happening, is the South Orange Village Center Alliance. We had Main Street South Orange, which did an amazing job of recruiting and managing and organizing our business community and events. The Village Center Alliance is what's called an improvement district. And any downtown that we model ourselves after, Milburn, Westfield, Summit, all of these downtowns have improvement districts. There's dozens of them throughout New Jersey, and if you basically pick a downtown that you love, for example, I was in Morristown the other day, they have an improvement district that helps manage their downtown, take an assessed fee from the businesses, allow the business owners to manage that fee through a corporate board, and put the money back into the business district. We've had a ton of new businesses that opened last year. I don't even have time to list them all here, but I know a couple. I don't even remember how many ribbon cuttings I went to last year for new businesses in town. I think there was one weekend where we did 7 in one day. So there are new businesses that are opening, the owners of Eden Gourmet changed to Ashley Market, which we're excited about. Love and Yogurt is one of my personal favorite ones, and there's a ton more. And one of the best kept kind of foodie secrets is starting to get out a little bit, which is Irvington Ave. There are tons of great spots to eat on Irvington Ave, and slowly people are starting to realize that this is the spot to go to get good food, including one of my favorite places up there, the Blue Plate Special. And if you go online, it's actually amazing. If you go on Yelp or any online review site, you can actually see some of these eateries, and they've got like 4- and 5-star ratings and dozens of reviews from people that go there and just love the food. And so I certainly sense, and I know the business owners in Irvington Ave are starting to, and have been getting more and more organized, but that is such an up-and-coming kind of secret eatery neighborhood in South Orange. And on that note, I started opening up some conversations with some of the officials in Newark, the leadership there, to talk about what we can do on this border. What can we do for shared economic development? Our town's success is weighted a lot on the success of our surrounding towns. We have a university sitting right on that border. We have a great business district right on that border. We have an amazing residential neighborhood in Tuxedo Park right on that border. And what South Orange and Newark need to start doing is looking at these areas as a whole area and erasing the political lines and finding ways to get money from the county, from the state, from the federal government to help revitalize and improve these areas, and do so without any thought for whose town is getting what, but which business district is getting what. And I think that's going to be the way that in New Jersey, a place with 565 municipal governments, that we have to start thinking that way. We can't just think about one town and another town. We have to start thinking about areas that people go to, especially when talking about economic development. One of the exciting projects on the horizon is the Third Valley Redevelopment Project. This is an incredible project that is going to bring in over 200 apartments, a parking garage, 600 parking spaces, and some retail space on the bottom floor as well. And it's going to bring in, again, a commercial rateable into this town that doesn't exist right now. Where right now we have surface parking, we're going to have a thriving, dense residential development. More people from there will go to businesses in the downtown, more will get onto the train without a car. Those are the kind of things that we need to think about as we continue to be kind of a population growth center in New Jersey. Towns like South Orange, towns like Maplewood, towns like Montclair that are centered around public transit are more and more becoming sustainable population growth centers. And when people can move to South Orange and not have to bring a car, the savings of $6,000 to $8,000, $9,000 a year of not owning a car is huge. And if people can spend that money, all of it, on the downtown, that would be great. So that's an exciting project that we're finalizing plans for. But even sooner is a really, really exciting project, which is what is now being referred to, what is now the Gateway, sitting on the former Bifus site, which has been sitting vacant for over 10 years now. Ed Ayusu, a local developer and property owner. This picture is a little bit hard to see. It's a fantastic building with 57 apartments, retail on the ground floor, and parking underneath in the back that you can't even see from the street. This is going to be right across the street, basically from where the entrance to SOPAC and Bunny's is. And this is a great development to bring in a surge of energy and foot traffic onto the other side of South Orange Ave in the downtown, which is really important. And these kind of developments, this is right next to the train tracks, the train station, will also allow us to better lobby with New Jersey Transit to improve the train station as we bring in more and more people into this town who are going to be commuting. South Orange's downtown is going through a revitalization right now. Between the Village Center Alliance, between some of the renovations that we've seen, and the store owners and property owners who want to do more, and the number of businesses that are interested in coming into South Orange right now, a lot's happening. And I think everybody sees South Orange and say, I love this downtown, I love how walkable it is, but we could be even more, we could do better. And I think we're on that path right now. And if anybody here does want to contribute to that energy, the Village Center Alliance is a really great way to do that. Whether it's business recruitment or marketing or anything like that, they can always use the extra volunteers. And you can learn about that at sovillagecenter.org. As we talk about growth, it's important to talk about sustainability. South Orange, for as long as I've lived in South Orange and Maplewood, has been a leader in sustainability, in a community that prides itself on thinking about the environment. Both those building projects that I mentioned, one will hopefully be LEED certified, one will be Energy Star certified, and we were able to have a great kind of ribbon cutting here. This is down behind the firehouse on Sloan Street, and we were able to unveil 3 electric vehicle chargers that were granted to us by Walmart in Sustainable Jersey. And these electrical vehicle chargers, you can come in, plug your car. The spot is only $1 an hour, and the electricity is actually included in that. So if you want to go to the movies, hop on the train, whatever you want to do, you can come down and plug your electric vehicle. And what this does is not only help provide that opportunity for people who do have electric vehicles, but it also shows the rest of the region our commitment to these kinds of things, and makes South Orange a destination for people who do think about these kind of issues, which we want to be. We want people who are environmentally conscious to think about South Orange as a place where they could dine, where they could shop, or where they could live. And these kind of projects are indicative of us being able to do that. We adopted complete streets policies last year, and we need to find more ways to make not only our downtown, but all of our residential neighborhoods more pedestrian friendly and more bike friendly. And one of the larger projects that we're kind of embarking on and had a great meeting this morning about is improving the pedestrian friendliness of Scotland Road and making sure people can basically get from one side of Scotland Road to the other. And all of these improvements in the residential neighborhoods and in the downtown are going to continue to make South Orange the kind of place where you can move and either have one car or no car, save that money, and be part of a walkable downtown community. This building that we're in right now is one of the landmarks of South Orange, and our Village Hall is in dire need of repair. We're starting a renovation project this year, and by the end of that, everything has to be done to National Historic or State Historic Preservation Office standards. It's a very meticulous renovation and expensive because of the historic nature of the building. But when we're done, not only are we going to have restored this building to a beautiful historic landmark right in the center of our busiest intersection in downtown, but it's going to be so much more energy efficient than it is right now. I'm probably not the only one in here that's a little warm right now. It's not the lights, it's not all of us, it's actually just the HVAC system. By completely upgrading the building, upgrading the HVAC systems, we're going to, and doing better insulation on everything, we're going to be able to control the cost of energy usage in this building. And more excitingly than that is we're looking to make the building completely run by geothermal power. And that's a huge step for us. And what we're hoping is going to be possible, although it may not be, but it may be, is making this basically a cogeneration facility, which would mean that the power that's generated here powers this building, and leftover power can be transferred to another municipal building, which there are a handful close enough that we could do that. And so effectively taking ourselves off the grid. We have solar panel projects, for example, down at the Department of Public Works that aim to do the same thing, trying to take municipal buildings off the grid one by one. So that only saves us money, but again, it improves what we do as a municipal government and how we leave our footprint. And one note on an interesting note on a program that people have been, as far as I can hear, very pleased with single stream recycling, that we've actually been able to generate about 30% more recyclable material from that program than people were recycling before. By commingling everything into one container, we've increased that recycling rate by around 30%, and we can probably up that even a little bit more by doing a little bit better education about what you can recycle now, which is almost anything. Once we start, once the cost structures change for the recycling material that we sell, we're actually going to be able to earn a little bit of revenue from this. Right now it's breaking even about. We're actually going to be able to earn revenue while residents are recycling more material. So that was a great program, and I think it's been really happily been used by so many residents that I've heard from. Emergency management. This is tough because I could talk about this for hours, and people who know me know I sometimes do. But what is important to note very quickly is this event. I mean, over the past 2 years, we've had 3 major storms in South Orange: Hurricane Irene, the Nor'easter, and Hurricane Sandy. And each of those times, our police department, fire department, and especially Public Works, they were out there the second the snow started falling or the storm came, getting things ready, getting life back to normal, getting the roads open. And for people that drive through South Orange during a snowstorm or that saw Hurricane Sandy the day after, our roads were incredibly clear compared to a lot of towns around us. And what's amazing, even in Hurricane Sandy, there were around 400 calls that came in just that night for our fire departments, Public Works, police departments. But throughout the course of Hurricane Sandy, over 5,000 staff hours, man hours, were spent by Public Works working on Hurricane Sandy, and they collected 20,000 cubic yards of debris. It's an enormous job, and they, again, one of the departments that when something happens, they just get to work, and they do an incredible job. And unfortunately, no matter how good our departments may be, no matter how much information we may put out, we still have to rely on, especially during Hurricane Sandy, the utility companies for their response. And I think all of us know firsthand probably, for most of us, that the response was not acceptable. There wasn't enough information, there wasn't enough organization, and the preparedness that we have on the local level wasn't there on a statewide level for them. Since that point, I've been working a lot with our state legislators, county officials, neighboring municipalities, 2 U.S. Senate offices, and the governor's office and the Board of Public Utilities, in trying to find a way to improve how the utility companies respond to these events. What's amazing, I mean, the destruction in South Orange, we had 200 trees that did come down. Utility, by the end of it, utility company trucks lining the streets. But the most amazing part, probably my takeaway, was not necessarily any of those responses, because those, honestly, those are always amazing, but is what our residents did. This was just a sign that I happened to see one of the days that I was driving around town kind of checking up on what was going on. This was a sign outside of a house in Newstead, and the sign just says, "Charge up here." And outside they had a whole set of power strips and for anybody to use. And the number of people who, even in a small way like that, come charge at my house, stay over here if you don't have power, down to some of the amazing, borderline and sometimes completely heroic things that people did down at the shore, out in the Rockaways, and in New York, is really incredible how people stepped up. Even, our municipal departments, I mean, everybody was working 7 days a week, all throughout the night. SOPAC opened their doors for anybody who wanted to come in and use wireless and charge up. The library has always been great about doing that. Local houses of worship, community groups, everybody opened their doors and said, if you need a hand, we're here to provide it. And I just remember meeting so many people throughout those couple weeks that were able to step up like that. And I think to me that really shows what kind of community this is here in South Orange. And even after the storm, after the dust settled, people came out and we helped clean up some of the parks, giving Public Works a little bit of a hand after how hard that they worked throughout the whole thing. And there's just so many examples of our residents here in South Orange doing that. And that's really what this community to me is really all about. There are a couple of hires that we're making right now in South Orange. One that we were able to do very recently, which is a new deputy clerk. and the other is hiring a new deputy administrator, replacing a bit of an oddity position that we had with a managerial position that's going to allow us to reorganize the way some of our departments function and create a better span of control between supervisors and employees, and make sure that we're getting work done even quicker and faster, getting information out, managing all those projects. And I want to make sure to thank Trustee Davis Ford, who on the Legal Personnel Committee has been a huge help in seeing some of our hiring processes forward. We've been able to make a couple of them quickly, and I think once that second position, that deputy administrator position is filled, we're going to be more fully staffed here than at least in Village Hall than I think we've been since I got here, and I'm really excited about that prospect. And we're also looking on that note, a way to reward those employees who do such a great job on a daily basis. Government is not typically seen as the kind of workplace where, yes, you want to out of college, you want to make a name for yourself in this industry. Well, I'm going to go work in government. Usually people think, well, private sector, I can get all the bonuses, and there's so much more money involved for me, and that's so important, especially if you want to start a family and the rising cost of college and health insurance and everything. What we want to do is bring some of that culture, some of those best practices from the private sector, from the nonprofit sector here to the government, and actually reward people who do great work, and we have many of them, by using a merit pay system. It's difficult for government to do, especially a civil service government. There are a lot of challenges, but we're hoping to work through those and set an example of how we can incentivize employees, smart, hardworking people to come work here, and then how we can reward the people who are already doing that, who are here. And it's important to be able to do that. Advocacy has become, I think, a larger and larger part of what local government does. It's not just anymore about providing local services. For example, during the storm, the number of calls and emails we fielded about the utility companies, local government has no control over what a utility company does. They're so far beyond our scope. They're almost far beyond the scope of the state of New Jersey, which has very loose regulatory abilities over them. So what is a local government? What is one local government, one council, one mayor supposed to do? And so what we're realizing is that part of our job, and South Orange has been an advocate on a number of issues for many years, probably marriage equality being one of the biggest, but is being an advocate to the county level, to the state level, to the federal level. There was a lot of advocacy that happened over the train schedules that feed into South Orange. They were changed last October in a way that negatively impacted the service to our residents. The commuters, up in arms, started petitions. We started sitting down. We brought our legislative representatives, county officials, and New Jersey Transit here to a board meeting, and we had many, many follow-up phone calls and meetings with them trying to find a solution to what was a decision that really negatively impacted our commuters and the commuters of West Orange and Livingston. But by working with West Orange, by working with Livingston, by working with our county officials, by working with our state legislators, by working with anybody that was willing to work with us, New Jersey Transit has made a change back, and they have reduced the trip time on 4 of the trains that were negatively impacted. And that was a huge success, I think, for us. Not the end of it, but certainly a step. And all those government agencies coming together to work on one goal is part of what we can do. And I think South Orange has shown that it's an objective, a fair leader in those things. When these issues do come up, we've advocated not just about issues with New Jersey Transit, but we're advocating for better response from the utility companies. We're advocating for better Open Public Records Act and Open Public Meeting Act statutes from the state. The laws that regulate the way that we communicate as elected officials was written before the internet existed. And as elected officials, every day we run into problems associated with that, and it's our responsibility to advocate. And also advocate to a little more local of a group, the East Orange Water Commission. And advocate is a bit of a soft word, considering we're in litigation with them for now 2 years. But basically finding any way we can to improve things that South Orange residents need. Not just local services, but anything, even if whether it's something we provide directly, whether it's something a local water commission provides, whether it's something a state transportation agency provides. We have to be those advocates. We have to go out there. We have to find ways to improve these things. And I think South Orange has done a very, very good job in doing that. We've seen some small changes. We're starting to see now changes from East Orange Water. We saw the changes from New Jersey Transit, and I think there's a lot more great changes that are coming down the line based on the kind of advocacy that we're doing. And a lot of that right now, for me personally, is advocating around the utility companies, how they manage power outages. Unfortunately, again, another example of a good government partnership. So I'm working with the Essex County Office of Emergency Management. It's been incredibly proactive and interested in working with us to solve how we manage information during power outages. Utility companies don't know how to manage the amount of information that they have. They don't know how to interface with out-of-state workers that are coming in to work on their lines in-state, and they don't have a good sense of where the outages actually are. Probably everybody, some people in this room, you call PSE&G when your power's out and they tell you your power's back on, and it's not. There are infrastructure problems that exist that we're trying to find ways to get around. And with the County Office of Emergency Management, we're finding ways to start to collect that data and basically create an integrated cloud-based solution in Google Docs that would keep track of every single power outage in Essex County, reported municipality by municipality, filtering up through our local governments to our county and then to the utility companies. And what we can hopefully do with that is not only provide the county better information, provide the local governments better information, and provide the utility companies better information, but hopefully what we can do is create a standard of how power outages are reported in the United States. Over the past 20 years, 30 years even, there's been a lot of focus on what people call, in the public safety field usually, interoperability. Right, is basically one jurisdiction being able to integrate immediately into another. Fire departments have been doing it for a very long time. Police departments, EMS agencies, OEMs are all doing it too. And they use a system called the incident command system that tries to take the jargon out of when people speak about what's happening, use plain English words that a firefighter from one town could be in another town and they'll be able to integrate perfectly. And utility companies do not have any of that. That's beyond what their scope is right now, and many of us see that as a real vulnerability as far as how we recover from storms like Hurricane Sandy that we're only more and more likely to see, and also from a national security perspective of making sure that our power grids are in a place where we can actually fix them when they go down. And so again, the County Office of Emergency Management has been, we've been working together on starting a pilot program between South Orange and Essex County, and while being in communication with Senator Lautenberg's office and Senator Coburn from the Joint Homeland Security Committee, we're going to be able to filter some of these ideas up to the state level and the federal level to try and get some level of standardization in the field of utility companies. And that's going to be an initiative that came from our experience with the utility companies from Hurricane Sandy. There are a couple other things that I want to touch on. I mean, communication is obviously incredibly important. I think I've touched on a number of ways that we've been improving that, whether it's the social media use through our Public Information and Marketing Committee. One of the other projects in that committee is to find a way to take suggestions and feedback, basically crowdsource ideas online, to create a forum or a suggestion box that's productive, that's towards a goal, that's towards solving problems, people putting ideas out to see problems solved. And similar to the way the White House has a petition site where you can create a petition, people sign it, when you get to a certain number, it's officially reviewed as a policy, we're looking at, through that committee, trying to implement some similar system. So instead of, again, people kind of shouting here and there and coming to a meeting, well, why don't we organize this a little bit? Let's create a place where your ideas can lead towards solutions. And I think we'll see more and more people in town contribute those ideas when they know that the ideas are going towards actually solving problems in their communities. And even something as simple as consolidating our email databases so that although the Gaslight, which is I think an incredible tool that we use to communicate to people who don't use anything electronic, there's no reason why we shouldn't be sending out monthly email updates from the village to our community about what's going on. Not from one elected official or another, not rumors, but what the village is doing, what projects are being worked on, the links to all the documents that could be available, the minutes, the agendas, the meeting schedules, and just give that proactively to everybody once a month. And that's something else that we're looking to work on. Community and arts is another area where we could go on for hours about how great South Orange has been and how much of a leader and how recognized we are outside of this town. Almost every time I leave South Orange and I visit another town and talk about South Orange, one of the things that always comes up is our concerts, our art. People know South Orange as an artistic community, and I think a lot of what we do exemplifies that. Pretty excited to be able to bring on a new executive director at SOPAC, and we're all so behind what SOPAC's mission is in this community. And I just kind of realized that today when I was going over some of the numbers to talk about tonight, that it wasn't that there were 17,000 people who went to SOPAC last year. I mean, that's a great number, but that wasn't the number that I thought was that interesting. What I thought was interesting was that about a third of the people that went to SOPAC performances were from South Orange and Maplewood. So that means 2/3 of the people are coming from out of our community into our community. They're not just going to SOPAC, they're going to businesses nearby, and they're going out to eat, they're going to a show at SOPAC, and that's what we need to continue to push. SOPAC is an anchor, it is a destination, and we're really excited, again, for Mark to be here, to be able to work on these things continuing on in the future. It's great what SOPAC has done and what they are doing. The number of concerts that we've put on last year alone, the Downtown After Sundown concerts, the Arts in the Park, I mean, it's incredible. When you go to Flood's Hill over the summer and you see, 1,500 people on Flood's Hill watching a concert, and not only that, but across the field, people playing baseball on, 2 or 3 of the diamonds, and across from that, people playing tennis at the tennis courts. It's like, this is incredible. This is not only a community that's so active in all of these different, in arts and in recreation, but people who, probably a lot of them, walk down to the concert. You always see, during concert season over the summer, people walking down with folding chairs and blankets, going down to these concerts, and that's just an incredible value that we have here that we can, I think, just keep doing more and more of. I guess something that I want to do before I wrap up is ask the trustees to stand back up again. And now I'd like to ask all of our department heads that are here tonight to stand up, and all of our employees. And now anybody who has volunteered or is volunteering in some capacity with the town, please stand up. Okay. Stay standing for a second, because I think what's important to note, and hopefully the camera for the people at home will capture some of this, that this is the government of South Orange. It's not one elected official. It's not just the Board of Trustees. It's not just the department heads. We're not the only ones that are bringing in a stabilized budget. We're not the only ones bringing in more arts, more culture, more recreation into this community. We're not the ones that are controlling the crime. Everything is being done on a level from the elected officials down with our department heads to all of our departments here in Village Hall, all of the residents who volunteer to get involved in some capacity or another. These are the ways that South Orange gets moved forward. It's not about one person. It's about all of us and what we're all doing for the future of South Orange. So I think what we have here is not just a great community, but a great government. And it's the future of government, but it's here in South Orange today. Thank you. That's right. Thank you. Well, I think I did leave out the most important part, which is where the after party is.
Yeah, we got to figure that out.
We're going to form a committee.